who are going to be talking about the business circularity, like I said, the global mega trends, and also changing consumer needs, the resource shortage, and how do we go about the technological breakthroughs at the same time as well. You all may please be seated. The financing gaps and the business models and the policies, the challenges and the opportunities. Thank you for that good vibe of music as well, ladies and gentlemen. Now to amp up, I would request you to please sort of give in some good, happy round of cheer as we welcome our panelists, the very learned and the experts, I must say, Aditya Sharma, SVP APAC from Boson Energy, Luxembourg. Let's please welcome Aditya. Hi, Aditya. Our audience members giving us a very tough time pulling their energies back, right? Aditya, thank you very much. You may please take your seat. Thank you for joining. Can we please have, and it's such a pleasure to be welcoming him on the stage after a few months as I host him again here at this platform of GBS 2023. Can we please have Sanjiv Navangul, the Managing Director and CEO from Bharat, Serums and Vaccines, India. Sanjiv, always a pride to be hosting you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can we please welcome Ayush Lohia, the CEO of Lohia Auto Industries. Ayush, hi, and a very, very warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not every day that you see the leading who's who, the creme de la creme really gracing. So please give it up as we welcome further up Avanti Sharma, Preteen Technology Specialist Workshop for me. Avanti, hi, and a very warm welcome to you as well. Let's keep clapping, everybody. All right, thank you. That feels good. Can we also welcome R.K. Mahto, the Chairman GTC Group of Companies, Chairman Crystal Plaza Group of Hotels, UAE. Please welcome Mr. Mahto with a good round of cheer. Thank you, Mr. Mahto, for coming all the way and flying the skies to be with us. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we need all the due energies of our session chair. I am super ecstatic to be absolutely greeting on the stage the director of the Austrian Institute for European and Security Policy, that is AIES. Please welcome Velina Tchakarova, please. Velina, very, very warm welcome. A very good evening to you. That is Velina Tchakarova. Velina, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to kick off this highly interesting session after covering a lot of topics related to the circular economy today, and it was actually already said, the creme de la creme is sitting with us. We are covering many critical sectors and industries. And I was already warned we should also be quite fit when it comes to the schedule, as we have also the other session starting at 6:30, right? So I will do my best. Now, I would like to start this session with a very general question, and that is that I would like to hear from each one of you, of course, starting with the lady in the session, and then we will move in the same order as the gentlemen were introduced. So there are no conflicts of prioritization of certain industry on this panel discussion. So I would like to hear from you one specific example based on your personal experience about a successful story when it comes to the reconditioning of the global economy, or specifically, of course, the local economy that you're dealing with, linked to a circular, of course, economic example, and also one specific challenge that you're facing. So the floor is yours.
Okay, hey everyone. So I think this is a very interesting question. And as an iGen and working in the education industry, I think that the new business model for a circular economy will start with making a circular education. And what I mean with this is currently most of our education systems are kind of data point based. We are kind of told to memorize certain historic dates and remember certain names. But now this must shift if we truly want to achieve a circular economy. So we have to shift our focus from data point driven learning to achieving analytical thinking, and also kind of using the economics, or in essence, how we can use the resources which we have. Currently, instead of telling our citizens to put their trash in the bin and keep our cities clean, we won't have to say that anymore if we can take care of this on an educational level. If we do not have the basic sense and we have to tell people to do all of these things, then looking at a circular economy and trying to achieve that is at a utopian level. Because human beings are very complex machines and we can achieve a lot. But even the most complex machine has to be trained first to be able to achieve what it has to achieve.
So you mean, let's wrap it up a little bit, so kind of not reconditioning, but preconditioning with the help of educational tools. Okay, so moving from education, let's hear about the successful stories, and maybe one successful story. We can then move on further successful stories in your sector, in the specific experience that you can share with us. And also maybe one particular challenge, given the fact that right now we are in the middle of an energy transition with various multifaceted challenges on both sides, on the side of the traditional use of fossil fuels, but also on the side of the use of renewables. So maybe you can also share a specific challenge that you are dealing with and you would wish to see solved while being at this company.
Yeah, sure. Hi. First of all, I bring greetings from Luxembourg to all of you, and I appreciate these questions. Quite interesting. What I believe is that to be circular, one has to learn from nature. Nature is circular. So one successful example, what we are doing and which we can achieve, that when we are talking about hydrogen, we are talking about trying to extract hydrogen from dry waste, which could be household, which could be waste wood, which would be whatever it is. And then when you at a high temperature gasify it, then you can get synthetic gas, which could be separated out into H2 and CO. The advantage of that is that you are not consuming water for that, because normally water has to be split to get hydrogen. And a country like India, which is scarce, which has got a very limited clean water supply, that's a successful model example that one can try it out and make it happen. Limitation is the knowledge, the awareness. Traditional mindset always goes in a one direction, and all the policies which are evolved or being adopted are in that particular direction. So to create awareness that there is an alternative to achieve the energy transition in a different model, different way, is what needs to be in place, and that's the challenge currently is. Thank you.
So I will wrap it up also as a challenge for not just businesses but human beings to think holistically and to act holistically, let's say in accordance with nature, or to learn from our best teacher, that is the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we move also to another quite exciting industry, and one that unfortunately in some corners of the world is still facing the very same issue when it comes, for instance, to vaccines. It is exciting also in a sense, not only because of the breakthroughs that we've experienced over the last 2.5 years, let's say on the technological side, but also because it gives a lot of hope for the treatment of other sicknesses in the future. So the floor is yours, and please share with us a personal experience of a successful story, but also, let's say, a challenge that you would like to see solved. And I very much hope that you will say that we will see in the next, let's say, 10 to 20 years, at least one solution for an incurable sickness.
Thanks, Velina. I think, let me give you a very specific example of success that we have seen in the recent past. We really deal with high-end critical illnesses And some of the, because we are a biotech company, we have natural sources that are raw materials to us. So if I tell you the top 3 raw materials we use, it's blood, urine, and plasma, or serums. So now all of them come from natural resources. The challenge that the pandemic threw was all the supply chains got disturbed, and you could not access as much raw material as you needed for patients. So the challenge that we threw to the team was that, can you make as many as possible recombinant versions and develop cell lines so that you don't have to depend on natural resources or natural sources for making medicines. Now that's a huge shift in technology, huge shift in platforms, very different mindset, but you get to a more stable supply chain, more predictable product, and a better quality product. That was the advantage that we could have got. And I must say that in the last 3 years, we have come a very, very long way. Already 3 of our products have become recombinant. We are on the way to do another 3 in the next 2 years or so. So it gives us a great fillip and cuts us from trying to use natural sources or natural resources to make medicines anymore. So that's a huge success story for our company and for the country as such. The challenge that you say is so true, that there are diseases where we need solutions. And the challenges I see is that I think now that the needle has moved and shifted to acute diseases or critical, some of the airborne diseases or acute diseases or waterborne diseases, again, let's hope that in the next few years, based on the new platforms for vaccines that we have developed, we get solutions to chikungunya, malaria, we find solutions to TB, that many of these diseases which are afflicting mankind and also incapacitating people in such a way that productivity goes down are taken care of. And we are seeing some signs of hope. We are very hopeful that in this decade, we might solve some of these disease problems, especially for malaria, chikungunya, dengue, and TB. These 4, we might see certain level of solutions coming through in the next few years or so.
This sounds very promising. And also now, if we stay at the topic of circular being also a holistic approach of dealing with the global economy in the future, now you gave also a perfect example how raw materials in some cases are actually holistic per se, because we rely on them and we can produce them on our own. Now let's move to another critical industry, probably one of the industries that have been hard hit by the pandemic, most hard hit, I would say. And then, of course, to use the example of Europe, the automobile industry is obviously now also struggling because of the repercussions of the war that is still looming in Ukraine, with a lot of automobile companies now also considering to move out because of the, let's say, the looming energy crisis on the old continent. So we are eager to hear your successful story, your example for a successful story based on your experience, and also challenge that you would like to see.
Thank you, Velina. Good evening, everyone. I am from an industry which is quite evolving right now. Lot in news in today's world. I am from electric vehicle industry. We manufacture electric vehicles. So in our industry, we started with few major changes in which we are using, briquettes, wood briquettes, which are reused from the waste wood, which comes out from either the forests or from the plants which are manufacturing products from wood. So we use that, reuse that wood and use to fire, and we are using it to fire the furnaces which are used to bake the paint on the vehicle. So this is the process which we are using to help the environment. We are very, because we come from the industry where natural resources are scarce still, A lot of evolution is happening. So we are circulating a lot of natural resources by using wood instead of using gasoline, furnace oil, diesel, or electricity, which is normally in India still comes from coal fire furnaces and other areas. So this is the innovation which we did inside our own facility. Instead of using any conventional fuel material, we are using briquettes, wood briquettes, to fire our furnaces. Challenge is full, like our industry is full of challenges as far as electric vehicle is concerned. We talk about circular economy, yet to come up with the resources where we can reuse a major portion of the lithium ion batteries, which we will be using as an energy source. We have started in a good way in a direction towards it, but yet to come to a solution where the recovery is almost 60-70% of the input what we give. So that is still a challenge which where we need to evolve to certain level of recovering the lithium as a metal, which is again rare right now, and without harming any of the natural resources existing which are there on our planet. That are the two areas which I feel that need to be evolved from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, because you mentioned also an important issue, and that is the issue of natural resources. The sector of the electric vehicles is going to witness an immense growth, given the fact that prior to the pandemic we had 7 million consumers, 7 million drivers of electric vehicles. I was one of them. But this is going to grow, and that means, of course, 100-fold of use of natural resources. And please keep this in mind, because we will talk about it later. Let's move to another interesting story, and that is going to be a story about recycling, I hope, when it comes to success. But also we would be eager to hear your personal experience when it comes to challenges and specific challenge in your sector that you're dealing with and you would like to see solved.
Thank you, Vanilla. Good evening to everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank the Time Group and all the management who has organized such a beautiful events. Globally, people are here on the platform, and lot of motivations and messages are going on worldwide. So thank you very much to all the management of the Times Group. I'm from the recycling industries. This is my core business. And before going to start the topics, let me tell you about the case studies. I think this is very important for the society, and especially the people who are coming from the unprivileged sections of the society. Down the line, for them it is very important to know about these case studies. Maybe it will be helpful to the young generations and youth and students to come forward and become an entrepreneur and contribute to the society, nation, and the world. I belong to a farmer family. My father was a small farmer in village, one of the state of India, Bihar. You can imagine coming from such a small farmer family. I did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering in 1983, one of the most prestigious engineering college in India. And since my college time, I was thinking always, I am not a job seeker. although my college has such a reputation, in a campus interview, each and everybody, students, get a job in the all multinational and government sectors and all the big companies. But I have decided, no, I have to become an entrepreneur. Although it was a big challenge for us, because becoming an entrepreneur without money is a difficult challenge, not easy. But I never lose my heart. And it's a long story, but I want to see the time constant. After my engineering, I have started my career as an entrepreneur in Delhi. I set up one plastic injection molding. It was my first project of my life. And from there, I have almost 35 to 40 years experience of the business. It's a very long journey.
Someone is urgently trying to reach you, but you yourself you
Sorry.
yourself are the successful story,
Yeah.
it turns out.
Yeah.
Could you specifically point to one successful story from the
Yeah, I'm
sector?
coming to that point.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that point. And it's very long, very long, the struggle. It's very long journey. And from there, I enter in the imports, exports. Then I have set up my office in Dubai in 2001. Then I have set up many offices in Africa. Now, as on today, I am proud of my group and my team. Today we have the 22 offices on the globe. And more than 2,000 employees are working globally. We are in the metal recycling industries. We are in the metal trading industries. We are in the hospitality industries. We have the chain of hotels in the UAE. We are in the power sectors. We are in the inspection business authorized by Government of India. Over the globe, 100 countries, we are authorized to do the inspection activities. Any metal scraps are coming to India. It is mandatory by the Government of India. It should pass through the company like us. We do the inspection and do the certification. Then only Indian custom can clear the containers.
Okay, thank
In
you.
the recycling, I know it's if you are talking about the circular economy, come to the point. In any events, any seminar, the circular economy, global warming, sustainability, these are the common topics and very important topics. And as far circular economy is concerned, it is the system of redesign, reform, regenerate and recycling of the materials without wasting the qualities, without changing the qualities. Is very important. And as on today, if I am talking about the recycling, it's a very, very important verticals. It's very, very important instruments for the sustainability of the economy. And as on today, the whole world is facing the global warming, carbon footprint, floods, so many things we are facing. And worlds are very serious. In 2015, there was a 196 country has signed the agreement in Paris.
We will talk about it a little bit later. I would like to give an equal opportunity to each
Yeah, that's
panelist,
right.
And you are right to point to this. But let's now move back to Avanti, because I would like to also cover some specific challenges and risks, but also opportunities when it comes to the
So
all
just I'm
panelists.
going to give one case study, and thus I'll finish, then we can move to the other panelist. If you are talking about the recycling, it's a great contributions to the economy. If you can compare to, since we belong to the recycling industries and aluminum is our core business, aluminum recycling. If you can compare to the prime aluminum and the recycling seconding aluminum, if you can see the datas, if you are doing the aluminum smelters, if you see the consumption, the economy, in terms of the energy, we are saving almost 95% energy as compared to primary aluminum and secondary aluminum recycling. We are saving 97% of the CO2 emission, carbon emission. We are saving almost 95% of water consumptions. And apart from that, the lot of infrastructure savings are going on. So any types of recycling, it is a game changer of the economy, the world economy. So circular economy and recycling is very, very important, and it is the part of my life. And even a small investment, you can start these activities.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. But let's be mindful also of the fact that we have distinguished panelists. Each one of them can also share a lot of interesting stories, and we are quite under pressure because of the schedule. So, Avanti, I would like to hear from you what kind of recommendations you will have when it comes to the participation of young people in the process of becoming entrepreneurs, taking more risks, and we still live in this kind of society, generally speaking, of course, where failure is perceived as something bad, and a lot of young people probably would take the step towards entrepreneurship if there is not this stigma of being a failure just because your first business idea was not a successful one. Most of the businesses underwent this kind of cycle. So can we use particular tools? For instance, you pointed out the education. Are there any specific technological, platforms or technological instruments to create awareness and to give young people, an own voice, an own story in this process? Because once again, when we talk about circular, we have to include everyone in the process. This is the big difference. Everything is interconnected. Everyone has to play a role and to be part of the process.
Yeah, so I think that if we look kind of at a circular economy, and as you also mentioned, we talked a lot about recycling, and I think that the opinion of experts across what exactly a circular economy is can sometimes be very varied. Now, one thing which I would like to kind of bring forward for young people, and I could suggest, is that if we look at a circular economy, there's multiple ways which we could achieve it. First of all, we have the option of recycling. So if we have a plastic bottle, we can recycle it by breaking it down and then use it again. But then there also comes into the question, as we also talked about electric vehicles and EVs, about how maybe that is the future and how we can do that. But then there's also carbon offsetting as well, which is it's also discussed in this conference. I've heard in other panels as well. So there's multiple takes on a circular economy and how we can achieve it. And I think that we have to work together in finding the best solution. Is the best solution kind of recycling everything which we produce, or does that consume too much energy? And is that not worth it in the end? Or is the best solution investing in kind of maybe EVs, but where lithium is at an all-time shortage currently? Or is the best solution kind of, still consuming what we need to consume, but then offsetting it? And I think all of these questions have to be answered, taking everyone's kind of opinion into account, and perhaps we need a mixed approach in this to make a circular economy. So on an kind of educational level, and as you talked about, what can we actually do in this platform? I think what I would suggest is if we could have a common platform organized by, maybe governments, bringing together the minds of tomorrow along with the world leaders and decision makers of today to come together to make a collaborative approach. And, as I kind of briefly mentioned, maybe the answer is not one solution, but maybe it's multiple and having a mixed approach in it. But in essence, involving everybody in some kind of platform of where open communication and collaboration, working together and innovating new solutions, maybe not even at a national level, but if we could also kind of upscale this to an international level, I think that could definitely make a big difference. And I think that will be one of the first stepping stones into achieving a circular economy.
But just to add a short question to what you've just said, do you think that crowdsourcing would be also a kind of sustainable solution if we are to, let's say, introduce an international platform where, for instance, young people can exchange? They often share similar perception about the ongoing problems when it comes not just to climate, but global economy, future perspectives, and so on.
Sorry, was your question?
Crowdsourcing. Do you think that, because you mentioned governments could be one way how to finance, but maybe also crowdsourcing and grassroots, ways of funding things to make it more, let's say, independent in a way?
Yeah, so I do agree. Definitely grassroots level organizations is a good idea as well. The reason which I kind of believe that in this case, maybe a top-down approach is more suitable is so that we can really bring in perspectives from everywhere, but also have a focused narrative and initiative. What happens often at time with grassroots, I think that it's great. I personally work in a grassroots organization, so I'm not against that approach at all. But I think that what often happens is with a top-down approach, obviously involving organizations and associations in the different areas and regions. With this type of approach, the advantage of is having kind of a specific narrative and all working together towards one common goal.
Okay, thank you. So we move back to energy. Aditya, I would like to hear from you about, we will stay at the level of risks. I think that this is important to move on. We need to not just to anticipate risks, but we need to deal with them. We need to, actually try to somehow more or less come up with sustainable solutions. And very often right now we are also witnessing interconnected risks. So we see risks from one particular system having spillover effects over the other. So how about recalibrating the risk-reward mindset? And I spoke already a little bit about this failure, perception in society, not taking risks because what will happen if, I fail as an entrepreneur. So how about recalibrating this risk-reward mindset when it comes to supporting the risk takers, and specifically the energy transition will be in the lead, obviously. So it's going to be about businesses and companies and industries, where we also see that political decision makers are right now not catching up very often. So on the one hand, we need to think of certain solutions that could recalibrate the mindset of the entrepreneurs, but on the other side of the coin, we have also the political stakeholders, and I'm giving you now this challenge to cover both. From your experience. Absolutely.
And I think this is a great question. So thank you very much for this. Now, if we look at risk and reward, this has been the basic point which has been there whenever there has been an enterprise and there have been an entrepreneur and investor trying to invest in. How do we address this point? Right. When we are talking about circular economy and the word circular is there, I think the best way to address this point is by looking at nature. If something, if we take inspiration from nature, what nature does, then we will know that it will be worth taking the risk there. Let me come up with some examples around it. We, about few years ago, I think I'll say that about 4 or 5 decades ago, it was thought of that producing electricity by having the water harvested through dams is circular. They said because water is part of nature and we are using it and we are getting the electricity out of it, it's nice, it's renewable. But over the years it has been found out that it's not good for nature. It is actually destroying the entire ecosystem. So now the big large dams, if electricity comes out of it, is not considered to be renewable. So what we have found out that's a risky project to get into it. The model moved on because if you see that nature doesn't do that. Now similarly, what we are currently doing, I'm not criticizing anything, I'm just putting some facts before you and then it's up to you to do it. Now we are talking about that we will split water, which is basically has to be clean water, to get hydrogen out of it. Now, as you know that water is scarce in many countries, including India, and when you split it, you have to split 9 liters of water to get 1 kg of hydrogen, and there could be a challenge whether the water goes for drinking or the water goes for hydrogen. And that hydrogen, so there is again a risk reward thing which comes onto it, and whether it's sustainable to do it. You may have special circumstances where you do it and that is okay to do that, but can that be a sustainable in a country where there are 4.5 billion people and who need drinking water as well? So that question becomes quite interesting from that point of time when the investor is trying to put in money. What we find, I think what is going wrong in the track is that sometimes we are defining a concept within our own limitations and we are defining something called a small circle. Like when we were talking about, say, EV, and I know it's a great future about it, but at one point of time, the EV vehicles and EV thing used to get started that you have electricity and you are using it for this purpose, so therefore there is no pollution, so therefore you are clean and green. But then someone came in and says, but hello, wait, your electricity is coming from coal, so therefore you have to expand your circle a little bit to take into account that coal part as well. Now people are saying that, hey, you have to expand the circle more to take into account that lithium is scarce. You have to take it that how do you dispose of your battery after that is done. So what is being done essentially is that the radius of that circle or that footprint is getting increased and increased and increased. And with each increase, the risk reward dimension changes. So, and this is a process which is evolving continuously, but what is needed is that we need to be aware of all the facts around it, and when we look at a proposition, we should try to look at the entire footprint rather than focusing on a small little point. It can go actually much bigger in terms of answer, but I know that you're running out of time, so I stop it here.
But I need to ask you a follow-up question.
Oh, sure.
Why not starting with the biggest circle first and actually starting with the smallest one? And I can give you a very concrete example. Think of the decision of G7 to decarbonize in 2015. So the G7 governments decided we are going to decarbonize, right? And it's, let's say, the decision is taken no matter which kind of government is coming to power afterwards. However, afterwards they practically learned that, at least this was the case with European governments, that 98% of the critical materials and the raw materials or rare earths were coming from a singular supplier, and that was China.
Correct.
So instead of actually starting with the largest circle first, why not? Isn't it a better, or let's say more sustainable solution?
See, the answer to that lies in the human, thinking, the conscious mind. We try to ignore uncomfortable situation. We just try to ignore it. So it's not that there was no information. At that point of time, that decision was taken that way. But if you look at this decision taken in the Hydrogen Forum, European Hydrogen Forum, on 5th of December 2022, their European Commission said that now we are very much conscious of all this matter about scarce raw materials and all, and they're looking at the entire proposition differently, and the circle is now getting widened. And I say, you said that why not start with a big circle in one go? Now India has become the president of G20, and Prime Minister Modi has drawn the biggest ever possible circle: one world, one family, one future. And that's the biggest ever circle possible. And we have to see that how this could be achieved.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's a very good end of the story. Now we move to Sanjiv with respect to the healthcare industry. Everything, of course, has to focus around saving and making life better. And we saw so many good stories from the last 2.5 years. So, how do we get to focus on circular economy is my first question. And a follow-up question is, why is there still the case that there is so much skepticism when it comes to these technological breakthroughs?
Yeah, so let's answer the more positive question first. Yeah, look, in healthcare, you are in conflict. First is you cannot recycle human beings. Yeah, you need to protect human beings. Yeah.
Wait for it.
Yeah, you need to protect human beings. Yeah, so the conflict always will be that what will you use and what will you throw. Yeah, so for example, needles. Would you want a needle to be reused on you? No. You would want the needle to be destroyed. Yeah. So there is this versus the fact that there are so many of things that we use in healthcare which certainly are clearly recyclable. For example, I'll give you an example of aluminium. I think a lot of our tablets and foils, alu foils, so we how do we find a recirculation of that? We use a lot of glass. We are a highly injectable oriented company. So the amount of glass we use is gigantic. I think it's a lot of glass that we use ultimately. How do we find a way to recycle glass? So there are things that we can do. The third big thing that in our industry is the medical waste. How do we manage medical waste or our healthcare waste is a very, very important recycling issue that we have to manage. The fourth one that I can think of is the is the water that we use for manufacturing. Yeah, we need really proper treatment plants to be used because it can be contaminated water, or may not be the best thing that water should be used even for giving it to trees at that time. So you treat that water well before you can reuse it, and also we have to find whether there are any bacteria in it. So we need to check, especially for something like Pseudomonas, which is dangerous. So we need to check so many things and to make water reusable. But should we stop making that effort? No, we do those efforts in a much bigger way because we realize that it is important for mankind, that we end up doing that. So these challenges are always going to be there for us in healthcare. So we need to be very, very specific in healthcare of what we can do from saving the earth or talking about circular economy in that sense, and what we cannot do. If there are things that we cannot do, we should also be very clear that this is not done in healthcare and we will not do it. So we have to have a very strong differentiating line in healthcare about. The second part of your question was on the skepticism. Look, you have to be a little more philosophical to understand the skepticism around healthcare. Human beings are born free and their minds work on choice. Healthcare is the only place where human beings go and receive a product or a service which is not out of choice. They are caught in a no choice situation. In a rare case where they are completely in a no choice situation. And therefore there is this natural revolt within the system that, this is not good. So there is that natural negativity towards healthcare service providers or healthcare companies which exist all over the world, which we have to accept and digest. The second part is the propaganda around it. If you really see the amount of lives saved versus what has happened, I know now we gave vaccines in very short time, very, very short time. How many millions and millions of lives must have been saved? It's a fact. Counter that with everything that you do can have some side effect. So if there are some side effect in some country on 7 people versus, let's say, 700 million lives being saved, how do you look at that cost benefit analysis or understand the impact of that? While the focus of media, how Twitter works, so most of the social media works, they will focus on that few things that can go wrong, which can go wrong anywhere. It can go wrong while walking on the road, it can go wrong while driving a vehicle, it can go wrong while providing some services. Everything in the system can go wrong. But in healthcare, unfortunately, because of that natural opposition to the issue, there is a lot of skepticism. The only way to counter is to keep on saving lives. Let's not go away from our core belief and core value system that we are in this business because we save lives. Yeah, it's a rare business where there is a cause. It's a rare business, probably the only business where you can say you can do good and do well. So we cannot go away from it.
I have one question to you. In recent times, when India and the whole world was facing that problem, like how you overcome this situation, because you were fighting against time, and then you have to cater so many people. I'm talking about not this pandemic, but also all the other diseases.
Yeah, I think, look, we don't have that much time, so let me make it very short, is that, look, focus. Focus is extremely important. In healthcare, we have to shut out all noise. We cannot give credence to anything that happens in the noisy system. We have to keep focusing that every day I get up in the morning and can I save more lives? If I keep focus on that, I keep doing my work. If I focus on the external noise, I would feel depressed. There is no reason to focus on it, and I don't focus, nor my team focus, nor my industry focuses on it.
The tragic thing about human nature is that if one had introduced a price to the vaccine, there would have been a black market, a gray market. People would have been standing queues just for the sake of getting something that is not for free. And that is
none of them would be healthcare workers. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now we're moving to another sensitive discussion when it comes to the sector of electric vehicles. Yes, obviously everyone is on the same page that this sector is going to witness a significant, immense growth. But I would like to hear a little bit about the downside of this process when it comes to, and you mentioned lithium. What is the price of, let's say, I mean, we started also obviously also with a very small circle, and that is that we want electric vehicles. Now let's expand this circle a little bit, and I want to hear from you based on your personal experience, without being now idealistic, but rather pragmatic. What are the biggest risks linked to the sector of electric vehicles? What
is the biggest?
The risks that are
in electric vehicles.
Yes.
Oh, so when it comes to business or from the life of a general person?
First, when it comes to the business cycle, so we need a lot of resources, and that is very often actually one of the things that citizens, people are not familiar with, that electric vehicles, interestingly enough, also require a lot of natural resources. Do you see also kind of new competition over resources, also over reconfiguring?
When it comes to electric vehicles, there's only few things which are on negative side of it right now, which I earlier mentioned also, that the recycling of the batteries is still a challenge, a small challenge what I see. Otherwise, if you see from an automotive segment, electric vehicle is increasing the efficiency on which it works from when it compared to a gasoline vehicle. Any gasoline engine does not work better than 25 to 28% of the efficiency of the complete vehicle. While it comes to a electric vehicle works on somewhere between 70 to 80% efficiency. That is the plus side of it, if you say it. The only thing which affects right now, because this industry is evolving. In today's scenario, we are comparing an IC vehicle which is evolved, or it has taken a birth almost 100 years ago. And you are comparing that technology with the technology which has just taken birth 20 years back. So the comparison is not genuine in my view, because it's still a lot to come. As far as the rest of the vehicle is concerned, whether it comes to motor, controllers, chassis, any other component, it is almost the same what we are using in IC vehicle. The only change is the energy source. We are currently using in IC vehicles the gasoline, like petrol, diesel, or CNG, LPG. While in the new vehicles and electric vehicle, we are using in this form of battery packs, which are storing energy and delivering at the time when it is required in the vehicle. So that is the only change in which you find that that is the difference between IC vehicle and electric vehicle. When it comes to recycling and when it comes to new technologies which are evolving in today's world as far as lithium is concerned, I can tell you one thing. The change which is happening in last 20 years and what will happen in next 5 to 10 years will be remarkable as compared to what happened in gasoline vehicles in over 100 years span. Take an example. In today's scenarios, we are talking in, and I'm talking in perspective to India, we migrated to BS6, Bharat Stage 6 Euro emission norm just 2 years back. And with electric vehicles, we are far ahead when it comes to emission. Even if you migrate from, take into account that electricity is generated from a fossil fuel, even then it is emit less carbon as compared to a IC engine with BS6 standard in place. What we are doing or what we achieve to do is something which is important down the line. First, we are using renewable energy, which every country across the globe is looking at to convert or to move from a conventional fossil fuel or coal emission based electricity generation to either in the form of solar, wind or hydro. This is something which is already transition is anyways happening across the globe. The second thing what we are anticipating that we are trying to bridge the gap by, even if the IC vehicle is generating emission in the center of the city, if it is generated at a far area where the electricity plants are generated, which are run by fossil fuel, which is almost 40 to 50% in today's world, in India's scenario, because we are using roughly around 20 to 25% of energy as renewable energy. So I really feel that this is going to make a much more cleaner future for us. Anyways, India has committed for 2017 to be as carbon neutral as far as the emissions are concerned. So these are the steps which we are taking towards us to achieve that goal.
Okay, so now we are approaching the end of the session, and I would like to hear from each of the participants one concrete recommendation for the political decision makers, how political decision makers can actually improve the environment of entrepreneurs and businesses when it comes to the circular economy, of course, based on the experience from the own sector. So we start with you, and please keep it very, very short, because we are really running out of time, unfortunately.
Sure.
I just want to add one question because I heard the interesting story of him going from small village and setting up an enterprise everywhere. I just want to add, apart from your recommendation to the government, I just want to hear, when aluminium was in abundance, it was widely available. Why you chose that recycling aluminium, over others?
With one sentence to the concrete question, and then one recommendation if you have such.
Okay, sure.
How you start?
Yeah.
Why you chose?
If you can see the complete parameters of the non-ferrous metal scrap, like copper, aluminum, brass, zinc, so many items are there. But why aluminum? If you can see the aluminum and applications of the aluminum, it's huge. If you are talking to any industries, everywhere you will find the utilizations of the aluminum. First of all, the nature of the aluminum is lightweight, non-corrosive, and it is very cost effective. If you can compare the rate of the copper and aluminum, copper is $9,000 per metric ton, and aluminum we are buying 2,300 to 400, at least 4 times is cheaper. And especially if you can see the aircraft, we are producing some material which is especially used in the aircraft. 70 to 80% material, aluminum alloy we are making, we are using to the automobile sectors to making the engine parts. All my blue chip company like Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Hyundai, all they are my buyers. We are supplying to all these blue chip companies. And air aviation industries also I am supplying the aluminum. So the application, if you can see the application and cost effectiveness, it's really appreciable and very, very economical and feasible and viable, and this is called sustainability. This is a sustainable.
This is a wonderful story to share at the end of the session, given the fact that copper, all of these critical raw materials are going, I mean, the price is going to further skyrocket given the
That's true.
increased demand. Do you have a recommendation, because we need to close the session, and I would like to
that's true. That's true. A few lines I would like to say about the initiatives of the government, what we are expecting and what governments are taking the initiatives for the circular economy. You know very well, if I'm talking about the government of India, in fact, all over the world, governments are giving the lot of initiative, taking a lot of initiative and duty concession and so many things to boost up the circular economy. As far government of India is concerned, I know very well, it is a great initiative by the government of India, and especially our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the way they are taking the initiative for the circular economy, recycling industries, it is a phenomenon I would like to salute, and in the 10 days before only you can see when our Honorable Prime Minister entered in the Parliament, they had here one jacket that is made by the plastic recycling. So it was a big message to on the country national level and international level, how our Honorable Prime Minister and the Government of India is serious about the circular economy and the recycling.
Okay.
And
Please, time is up.
lot of
Time's up, and let's give one sentence to each of the participants to close
Sure,
this session.
sure,
Thank
sure.
you very
No
much.
Yeah, so I'll keep it quick. So flourish them to grow, give them a platform to speak and communicate with each other. And also, this is more directed towards kind of the younger generation. Tell them that their voice will be heard as well. We already talked about kind of making different decisions. Does it make sense to to completely switch to EV? Does it make sense to focus on recycling, or does that take too much energy? Does it do the decisions which we're doing right now, do they make sense, or is it better to have a mixed approach? So those are the questions which have to be answered, but they have to be answered collectively.
Thank you. Now let's move to the
So my only recommendation to the government for circular economy or recycling of material, government has already taken initiative by the way of scrappage policy in India, where they are already taking initiative so that the old vehicles can be replaced with the new ones, whether by giving incentive to the user, and they are also giving incentive to the user when they convert from a IC vehicle to electric vehicle. I will only suggest that if they can increase the amount of incentive which they are giving for scrapping of the vehicle, then this can fast pace the process of converting the IC vehicles into electric vehicle, one. And second, even if a customer wants to convert from IC to IC, at least it will remove the vehicles which are old, which are polluting, and will move to a new carbon emission standards like BS6 and all. So if they will increase the amount of subsidy, it will definitely fast pace the transition from IC to a new BS6 standard IC vehicle.
Thank you.
Hey, just one sentence recommendation which I'll expect is that life cycle study behind a decision taken or initiative introduced should be made available to public. Thank you.
Thank you. And
So to end, let me, there are very many rational reasons for circular economy. Let me give the policymakers and the politicians an emotional reason. They are also human beings, they have children. They need to leave a much better world for their own children. And if they understand that, they will certainly take the right decisions required for circular economy.
And that was actually an excellent end of our panel discussion. Thank you very much for your excellent insights and for sharing your personal stories, for giving us recommendations. And by saying that, now I am closing this session.